Hey guys, what's up? I'm back again, and don't worry, I still have my Nightmare Before Christmas video planned for later this December. I'm definitely going to be going through my Christmas plan. Also, I wanted to say thanks for those who had checked out my Frozen video, if you had. I appreciate any of the feedback and views I gotten on that video, so if you haven't watched it yet, please check it out and let me know how you like it. But in that video, I also promised that I would be at some point talking about a certain movie for Disney's 100th anniversary, and that is Disney's Wish. After 100 years of being around as an animation studio, Disney has their 60-second animated film out right now in the form of Wish. A film about a young girl finding out the secret of this king who has the power to grant wishes, in a film that caters back to the classics of Walt Disney animation. This has all the makings of what Disney is known for. Classic animated set pieces based around fairy tales, a big musical adventure with a supposedly catchy soundtrack, and talking animal sidekicks, along with consistently making nods to itself as a Disney movie.
I am talking!
You most definitely have it here. Now, as I stated in my Frozen video, Disney animation, despite its flaws, has been a huge part of my life. I felt obligated to see their newest film because chances are it could be good. I know some people were rather mixed with the marketing of the film, and Disney hasn't been having the best 2020s with their reception as of late, in many forms. Yet with Disney dedicating a decent amount of time to showcase their animation studio this year, I was cautiously optimistic to what they could do with Wish. Now that I have seen the film, after witnessing so many Disney animated movies this year, good and bad, and also extensively going into detail of my enjoyment of a previous one, how does Wish hold up as part of the Disney animation lineup? Well, I have to admit, while I understand the appeal of making a film that celebrates Disney's extensive history, after watching the film and seeing the way it was executed, I don't think this was the right direction for Disney to go with this kind of movie, unfortunately. That being said, I thought for the most part, Wish was at least cute. The film really sets itself up as a throwback to classic Disney films of old. It goes back to fairy tale roots and Disney musical formula, but the way it's accomplished is a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion. Starting with the animation style, as this is a movie where Disney is trying to get into the recent trend of trying to be in the stylistically interesting animated movies we've been seeing. A fantastic thing to see, by the way, but the way it's executed makes it feel like this studio is a bit too late in the game for this. Not to say that the animation is bad, it has some significant strengths to it. The background and effects animation are genuinely excellent. I love how the film has backgrounds that really cater back to the much older Disney movies, and it results in some really great shots at points. The effects used in a lot of the song sequences are filled with plethora of colors that ends up being a feast for the eyes. Visually, I love what this movie is trying to go for. Where it falls back a bit though, is within the character design department, as a lot of these characters look very much like a standard Disney archetype character, done in CGI. However, they look less stylized and more like CG characters existing in a 2D plane. It's a style that does have some expression, and I appreciate what they were going for, but it also just looks like it could have strived to look a little more traditional in some ways. My friend compared these characters to how the characters in Smash 3DS looked, with a bit of a filter to them, and I kind of agree. As for the story and characters, again, it kind of serves as a mixed bag for me. The cast in this do have their strengths, but as a whole, most of them feel very archetypal for Disney. Asha is the typical quirky Disney lead that we've seen a lot of in these kind of movies. She's not dislikable or anything, but her character lacks the development these other Disney leads have had. There's a really sweet motivation behind her wanting to have her father's wishes come true, living such a long and kind life. It makes wishes serve as a motivator for these characters to do their passions in life, which is not a bad route to go for. Disney Disney is known for having films all about magic, and it playing with these themes of wishing being something you can make happen is fairly inspiring. Yet the issue I have with this is that the movie doesn't really explore this idea that much. The movie talks about how wishes are important, yet we never see that many indication of why that's the case. And a lot of these characters feel underdeveloped despite that. This kind of message was done a lot better in Princess and the Frog, as I appreciate what Wish attempted to do here, but the wishes being the motivator motif had more prominent examples of it in Princess and the Frog, and it was one of the reasons why it stuck better as one of the first Disney movies to be meta about itself. This does lead to another issue I have with the film, but one that isn't as bad as people are making it out to be. And that's the fact that the movie makes a lot of references to other Disney movies. To an extent, I get where people are coming from, as this kind of self-referential meta humor is something Disney has been relying on way too much. Their films tend to be less fixated on telling a compelling narrative, and instead, they're more fixated on, remember all the stuff we have? This one does get away with it a little bit better, despite not being perfect and a bit on the nose with certain references. That's because, first off, they mostly just stick with classic Disney animated films here. And second, given that it is a 100-year celebration, the references are warranted somewhat more here. Some of the little Easter eggs I actually think are kind of neat in their own right. And no, this isn't a movie that's trying to establish an everything is canon narrative like some are claiming it to be. All the stuff the movie makes nods to, they're just references. Nothing more. Take it easy. There is a valid critique in the movie of Disney having an over-reliance on this trope, but these references aren't that much different to when other Disney animated movies made references to other Disney animated films.
It's a small world after all.
No!
But the critique is still valid because the film does feel a bit too reliant on referencing its past instead of showcasing a new compelling narrative in the style of older Disney films. I can't shake the feeling that this film would have been a lot stronger if they went on to these kind of revamps in more interesting ways instead of just using them as jokes. Within the 100 years Disney has been around, considering that movies like Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, Moana, and even Frozen did a pretty innovative job of creating a new Disney animated tale, this one does feel a bit underwhelming in that department. The film does try to bring back a few things I was generally interested in seeing, particularly an actual main antagonist. This time we got King Magnifico, played by none other than
Chris?
Shut up! His whole deal is that he is the king of rosas, and he has the power to grant wishes, but only of his choosing, making him a selfish king. I like the idea behind this character, and he also has the making of maybe even being a sympathetic villain, being the one who doesn't get appreciated by the public, even though he gets way too power hungry and controlling himself. A good idea for the character, and they do a decent amount to make this character expressively evil, especially with Chris Pine's voice work really hamming it up in a villainously likable way. Even though he's a good concept for a character and one of the highlights of the whole film, I felt they could have gone into his character a bit more, as he's mostly just a one-dimensional evildoer. And I know other Disney villains in the past haven't always had much of a motivation outside of pure evil, but they commanded more of a presence than this guy did. You were still able to tell that these were characters who made it so they get their way, and you saw how they stop at no cost to accomplish their goals no matter who gets harmed. I don't quite get that with this character, as the film doesn't dive into the character's wishing power and status, making him feel kinda rushed. It's a shame to think this, as there is a making of a solid, fun villain here, and I do like a bit of what we see, but it comes across as a bit lacking, knowing that they could have really given this character an impact for being the big Disney comeback villain for the 100th anniversary. Though, hey, on the plus side, we do get a big villain song in this. Surely that's special.
Someone praise me for my benevolence! Just look.
Well, that's another part of a movie I'm mixed on, admittedly. The music in Wish is fine. Full disclosure, I have listened to a couple of songs on there since I've seen the movie in theaters, and I'll admit, on their own, the songs aren't actually too bad. Certain ones like At All Costs and Knowing What I Know Now are actually fairly memorable, and they have a nice melody to them. Where the songs kind of lose me a bit more is how they are in conjunction with the film, as this is an animated movie that's trying to be in the vein of classic Disney movies. Yet, I hate to say it, but this soundtrack just sounds a tad too modern for the film they're striving for, in my opinion. The music was written by people who didn't have a background in theater, but instead they were written by people who were more involved with pop music, and it shows. The way the songs sound most of the time is very poppy, and almost like they're an imitation of what a Disney song is. It just feels like a weak contrast, because one thing that made a lot of these Disney soundtracks so iconic was their timeless feel, with a Broadway, bombastic, larger-than-life sound to them. Even if they don't 100% do the Broadway style, they still manage to feel very appropriate for the setting they're in. Where this just feels like a team was hired to create songs that would be more popular from a marketing standpoint. Like I said, some of the songs do have their merit. I think the one that feels the most appropriate is This Wish, which doesn't feel too overtly modernized, but the rest suffer from questionable lyrics.
When it comes to the universe, we're all shareholders.
Get back to your systems.
And also just a feeling like they're trying maybe a bit too hard to be the next hit Disney song to play on the radio. I want to be more into the villain song, This Is the Thanks I Get, because it does have some strong moments. Like most Disney villain songs, it does get more threatening and builds upon that very well. Plus, I also think the concept of Magnifico feeling entitled to the people's needs. Yet, the song does have a very upbeat nature to it for the majority of it, which would be okay if the song, again, just didn't strive more to sound like a typical pop song at many points. The overtly modernized nature of these songs does rear its ugly head here. And this is no disrespect to Chris Pine, who I think did a good job performing these songs. Though, I have to be a little honest, the songs as of now are just okay. But that's not what I initially would have liked for a film of this caliber. Maybe they'll grow on me a little bit more over time, but as of now, they're just okay. So What I Know Now, that's a pretty good tune, not gonna lie.
Knowing what we know now. Knowing what we know now.
I might sound like I didn't like this movie all that much, but to be fair, I didn't dislike it really. Ultimately, I do think the movie is fine for kids, as nothing in this film was deemed as too offensive or insulting in terms of kids' flair, from Disney even. There's still a lot that makes it rather charming. There's some good visuals here, there are a few decent songs here, and it has plenty of cute moments and characters. I even found the little non-Luma from Mario Galaxy to be kind of adorable, but that's what it stands as. A fine, cute movie for kids, which I don't think was the right call for Disney to do if they wanted to celebrate their animated films in such an impactful way. I feel like in order for Disney to excel further, they need to make a film that does a lot of new things with the formula, which even when some of these films weren't perfect, there was an attempt to add more substance to these films, with creating a movie that could last more till past childhood. In my honest opinion, Wish isn't quite that. It serves as a decent kid's first Disney movie, but not a game changer, which wouldn't be such a bummer for me if it wasn't for how animation studios have been outshining Disney in a lot of different aspects. There are so many good anime films, yet Disney is kind of seemingly still stuck in a rut, and I don't think this was the strong enough film to get them out of that. It's weird, because the Disney short Once Upon a Studio did a much better job of commemorating Disney's 100. It had more heart and soul to it, where this was commendable, but not their strongest work in terms of feeling like a major passion project by a brilliant team of animators and artists. The most disappointing part of watching this movie was not including the Once Upon a Studio short in front of it. It absolutely is a wonderful celebration that gives a good look back to Disney's history, done through a lot of passion. This wanted to be that, but I recommend a lot stronger movies. That said, if you're looking for a decent time with some fun songs and visuals, especially for the kids, I think Wish will at least be an alright and cute throwback to their history. So take that for what it's worth. And I'm going to give Wish a 7 out of 10. Wish I could say more about this movie and more positive things, but it's just a fine movie. But fortunately, I can't complain too much in terms of watching anime content as of late. I mean, thank God for another animated series that Netflix had, reigniting my love of animation than what Disney did. But that's another story. Though I do want to point out one thing that is a slight spoiler for Wish, as the end credits of this movie is a showcase of various Disney characters from their animated films. It's a nice little callback, and I like seeing all these movies given some light. The weird downside is that there were a decent amount of characters that were strangely omitted during the credit. The cast of Meet the Robinsons, The Rescuers, and even a lot of the wartime era films didn't get any sort of recognition, which is bizarre to me. Come on, you could have given them a nod for those fans. But the bigger crime of this whole movie is this. So, the entire end credits, Disney had the balls to showcase both Aladar and Chicken fucking Little in this damn movie. But no Gurgi?
Oh, poor miserable Gurgi deserves fierce smackings and whackings on his poor tender head.
Seriously, no Gurgi from the Black Cauldron? This is pitiful, Disney. Leaving out one of your most iconic characters. 0 out of 10. Justice for Gurgi. Anyway, what did you guys think of Wish? Comment below, let me know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys again in the near future. Later.
And this is the thanks I get.